Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. My name is Ayla, and I am the Ocean Science Educator for Ocean First Institute. We are a conservation nonprofit based here in Boulder, Colorado. And our mission is to learn about and educate people about the ocean through research and education. So oftentimes we will be going into classrooms. Of course, given the times we're living in, we're not doing that right now, but I'm so excited to be able to engage with you all virtually. We have people as far as Florida to right here in Colorado. And I really appreciate everyone coming together and joining us to show that we can continue learning about and protecting the ocean, even when we're doing it virtually. So throughout today's presentation, I'm going to share some sea turtle facts for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to have time for questions and answers at the end. So please, like Lauren said, feel free to put your questions in the text chat or in that separate Q&A text box that Zoom offers, and we'll get to all those questions at the end. All right, so I actually grew up living and traveling aboard a boat, even though I'm originally from Boulder, Colorado. And as a result of spending most of my adolescence at sea, I really saw firsthand the impact that people can have on the ocean. And that's why I'm incredibly passionate about educating folks about what they can do to help preserve and protect our oceans and sharing stories about the amazing creatures that live in it. And so the story that I'm going to be sharing today is that of the sea turtle. This is a story that begins about 150 million years ago, when the ancient ancestors of the sea turtle first appeared on Earth. But the modern day story of the sea turtle begins often on the beaches, which is where baby sea turtles will hatch out of their nests and make their way to the ocean, where they'll often travel thousands of miles feeding and going in these amazing migratory patterns across ocean basins before ultimately returning to, in many cases, the very same beach where they originally hatched and laying their eggs and beginning that next generation of sea turtles. So I want to note, when we talk about the sea turtle, we're actually not just talking about one animal, but several different species of that animal. So can anybody guess how many species of sea turtles there are? Go ahead and throw your guesses in the text chat as to how many species of sea turtles you think there might be. We've got people who seem to know their stuff. Indeed, there are actually just 7 species of sea turtles. And I'm guessing many of you might have heard of some of these, like the leatherback sea turtle or the green sea turtle. They come in all different shapes and sizes. They share a lot of similar features, but they also have some pretty unique differences and adaptations. So I'm actually going to share some fun facts about each of these sea turtles with you. And we're going to start with the green sea turtle, which is often found in Florida. And this sea turtle actually eats something kind of unique amongst turtles. So I'm going to play this video and see if you can see what that turtle is munching on. Can you guys see that? It's seaweed, it's seagrass. So green sea turtles actually begin their lives as omnivores, which means they eat both plants and animals, just like many people. And just like some of us might become vegetarians as we grow up, the green sea turtle actually becomes an herbivore as it matures. And so grown-up green sea turtles are only going to eat plants. And because of this plant-based diet, it actually turns their fat green, this unique color of green, and that's where they get their name from, the green sea turtle. All right, and some of you might actually be able to see in this video, our sea turtle seems to have a pal here that's traveling along with it. That's what's called a remora. These can be found not just on sea turtles, but also attached to whales and dolphins. And they have what's called a mutualistic or a symbiotic relationship, where the remora gets protection and transportation from the larger animal, like the sea turtle, and that remora in turn will actually help kind of clean bacteria off of the sea turtle. So you might see a few other of those remoras floating around as we go through the turtles. Now this next sea turtle, let's see here. The next sea turtle is the loggerhead sea turtle. This is the most common sea turtle that can be found in the southeastern United States. And you can probably already see on this loggerhead sea turtle, its neck and head are a lot bigger than the green sea turtle. And that's where it gets its name, actually, is because its neck kind of looks like a log. And so the loggerhead sea turtle is going to have really, really powerful jaws that allow it to have access to its favorite snacks, which are things like crabs or mollusks or sea urchin that it's going to find on the ocean floor. So you'll see the loggerhead kind of bottom dwelling and looking for those creatures that it's then going to be able to break open with its super powerful jaws. Now, this next sea turtle also has a special adaptation that allows it to get access to its favorite snacks. This is the hawksbill sea turtle, and it's named because it has this unique kind of beak-shaped mouth. You can see it even better in this video here. And that beak-shaped mouth allows it to have access to sea sponges, right? Which are those soft animals that live inside coral reefs. And so you can kind of see in this video, the hawksbill is going to use its beak to dig in to all the nooks and crannies and crevices of the coral reef and have access to those sea sponges. So the hawksbill you're often going to find kind of hanging out in those warm, shallow waters and feeding around coral reefs. Now, this next sea turtle is actually my favorite. This is the olive ridley sea turtle. It looks a little different than the ones we've seen so far. And I want you to look not just at this turtle in the foreground, but see if you can see what's behind it. What are all those other things on the beach with this turtle? Can you see that? Offer any guesses in the text chat? Well, maybe you can see, but they're actually other turtles. They kind of look like rocks, but there are all of these other turtles, yeah, exactly, that have come up on the beach with this olive ridley. And they're doing something called an arribada. That's a Spanish word that means arrival. What's pretty unique about the olive ridley is that when they nest, all of the olive ridleys in a single area will actually come up on the beach together at the same time and create their nests in really close proximity to each other, which causes then all of the eggs to hatch around the same time. And you can see in this video, that's what they're doing. So can anyone guess kind of why that might be helpful to this type of sea turtle to lay all of their eggs at the same time? Any ideas why that would be helpful? It's kind of, you can think about it as a safety in numbers thing. If all the sea turtles' eggs hatch around the same time, exactly, I have someone in the text chat is saying protection. If all those eggs hatch around the same time, sea turtle hatchlings are really small. They might only be a couple inches long, and that journey, even just from their nest to the ocean, can be long and arduous for them. And so if there's safety in numbers, if there's lots of hatchlings moving towards the ocean together, they might be less likely to be targeted by predators. All right, so the olive ridley also has a cousin, which is the Kemp's ridley sea turtle. This is actually the smallest sea turtle that we know about. It's only about 2 feet when it's mature, and it weighs between 80 and 120 pounds, okay? This sea turtle will also participate in the arribadas, just like the olive ridley, but Kemp's ridleys are more likely found in areas like the Gulf of Mexico, and unfortunately, because of threats to coastal environments and some of the areas where this turtle is found, like oil spills, for example, their numbers have been dwindling in recent years. They are considered to be critically endangered. But the good news is that there has been a tremendous joint effort between scientists and governments and fishermen to study the Kemp's ridley sea turtle, to understand the nesting habits and the migratory patterns of the Kemp's ridley and make sure that we know about it so we can keep protecting it. This next sea turtle is called the flatback. And again, it looks a little different from some of the other sea turtles we've seen. They have that flat, smooth carapace, which is a scientific name for a turtle shell. And it's kind of different than that curved shell we've seen on the other sea turtles. Now, the flatback could also benefit from research. We actually know very little about the sea turtle. It's born on beaches in Australia and stays very close to those areas throughout its entire life. Unlike other sea turtles, which might migrate thousands of miles, it stays in a really close area, and their nests are also quite small. There might only be 50 eggs in a flatback nest compared to 200 eggs in other sea turtle nests. So we don't have a lot of information about the flatback, which means we need more research and more scientists out there studying this guy. So maybe some of you in the audience right now will become those researchers someday. And then our final sea turtle we're talking about is the leatherback sea turtle. Again, it looks a little different. This turtle doesn't have a shell in the traditional sense. Instead, it has this kind of rubbery, leathery skin, which is where it gets its name from. And underneath that skin is a mosaic of bones, which will provide protection for it from predators. This is also the biggest sea turtle. This sea turtle can be taller than a person end to end and weigh up to 1,100 pounds. They're huge. When they come up on the beach, it looks like a car drove up out of the water. The leatherback will also travel some of the furthest distances of any of the sea turtles. It'll dive the deepest, and it can be found in much deeper and colder waters and further north than any of the other sea turtles. So in order to kind of grow that big and survive in cold water and go that far, they have to eat a lot. And it might be kind of ironic because their favorite snack doesn't seem that nutritious. Can anyone see what's floating in the water around the sea turtle? Any guesses as to what the leatherback's favorite snack might be? Jellies, yeah, exactly, jellyfish. So this huge sea turtle, its favorite snack is something tiny and made mostly of water. Seems kind of ironic, but the leatherbacks are really good at getting these jellyfish. So they'll swim through fields, just like in this video, with their mouths open and just bring in as many jellyfish as they can, and can actually consume up to 16,000 calories worth of jellies in a single day. So that's pretty amazing. So they do get that energy to be able to travel and to grow big, which of course does make them the biggest sea turtle. So we can see that these turtles come in all shapes and sizes. The leatherback, which is going to be bigger than a person, to our little olive ridley and Kempserdly sea turtles, which are going to be our smallest. But despite all of these different shapes and sizes, the fact that they live in different areas, eat different things, for example, sea turtles do share some commonalities between each of those 7 species. And one of those commonalities is nesting. So all sea turtles are going to come up onto the beach to lay their eggs when it's time to nest. Now, not all of them are going to do what we see here, which is the Adibata that the olive and the Kempserdly engage in, but all of them are going to navigate back to those beaches and lay their eggs. Now, sea turtles can be really fast and graceful in the water, but on land it's hard for them. Imagine if you were shimmying along a beach on your belly and you had an 100-pound backpack on too. That's what it's like for a mother sea turtle when she comes up on the beach to lay her eggs. And you can see in this video how tired she's getting, right? It's hard work digging that nest. But once she has dug it, the sea turtle is going to lay her eggs in that nest. They can be anywhere from about 50 to 200 eggs in a single nest, and they're going to be about the size of ping pong balls, all right? So not that big. And then once she's laid those eggs, she's going to cover the nest back up with sand and actually head back to the ocean. And that's going to be the last that the sea turtle sees of her eggs, of her brood. She's going to head back to the ocean, and then the eggs are going to stay there for about another 2 months or 60 days to finish their incubation period. And then we have sea turtle hatchlings that come out next. So sea turtle hatchlings can actually face challenges to their survival even before they're born. I talked about those ping pong ball sized eggs, and there are actually some beach dwelling animals that really like to snack on sea turtle eggs. You'll see in a second there's this grate right over where the hatchlings are coming out, and that's actually to protect the eggs from those predators. Does anyone have an idea of what beach dwelling critter might like to snack on sea turtle eggs? They look like bandits sometimes. Any ideas? Seagulls, that's a really good guess, and they definitely can be predatory towards hatchling. Raccoons, yeah, exactly. Raccoons really like to snack on sea turtle eggs. So in fact, about 20% of a sea turtle nest will not hatch. But those other 80% of hatchlings that do come out of the nest are gonna start their journey to the ocean, like we see in this video. And this is challenging. Like I said earlier, that journey to the ocean from the nest for these little tiny sea turtles, they're only a couple inches big, is incredibly difficult and challenging. They can face natural predators like seagulls and even crabs that might want to grab up a hatchling. And so in the end, actually only about 50% of those hatchlings that hatched will make it to the ocean. But those that do, as soon as they get to the ocean, what they need to look for is a place to hide and food to eat. And so we'll oftentimes find those hatchling sea turtles in large beds of floating seaweed, which we call sargassum. And not only will that provide them protection, but there's often little critters, little invertebrates in there that those sea turtles can eat while they start to mature into adolescence. But even for these little sea turtles in the ocean, even for those little sea turtles, they are going to be exposed to predators, things like fish and sharks and seagulls and birds, even things like storms and inclement weather can be really difficult for those little sea turtles to survive.
Hey, Ayla, it looks like we lost the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, that was so odd. I actually just got booted. Some of the challenges of working in modern technology, let me just share my screen with everyone again, and we will get started back where we were. Is everyone able to hear and see me and see those slides okay?
Yeah, everything looks good. So we can kind of see your notes and things like that. I don't know if you can share just the PowerPoint part of it.
Let me try to do that. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. We're adapting to new times, and sometimes
No worries.
technology can
And
make.
while you're doing that, I'm actually going to answer some of the questions that came in, if that's okay. Just so I can at least do one while you're doing that. So we had a really good question. Someone from Colorado asked which of the turtles are native to the U.S. So out of the 7 species, it's really cool. We could actually find 6 of them in U.S. waters. So that's all of them except for the flatback. So that's the one that you find around Australia. They have the smallest range out of all the sea turtles, but all the others, the green, the loggerhead, hawksbill, both Ridley species, and the leatherback, we can actually find around the US, but some are definitely harder to find than others. All right, it looks like everything's going well with your PowerPoint. I'm gonna hand it back over to you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. I'm glad no one else got booted out, but we're back and we're talking about the odds that sea turtles have to overcome. Right, we were talking about how those little hatchlings can fall prey to things like fish or birds, or even inclement weather. And so about 50% of those turtles that made it to the ocean actually aren't going to reach adulthood. But when they do reach adulthood, those turtles, about a year old, they're going to be the size of a dinner plate, so not that big. And then as they mature, in the case of a leatherback, for example, at about 10 years old, they're going to be the size of a dinner table. They grow huge. In the case of the olive and the Kempsriddle, it might be more like the size of a side table, but still, when they get bigger, they're going to have fewer natural predators into adulthood. That being said, there are still certain sea animals that will go after turtles. Something like a shark, like a tiger shark, actually has powerful enough jaws to bite through a shell. And so those adult sea turtles, even fewer, only about 10% are actually going to make it back to that original beach where they hatched in order to lay their eggs and to start that next generation of sea turtles. So at the end of the day, only about 2 out of the 200 eggs that are originally laid are going to make it back to their beach. That's about 1% of sea turtle eggs that reach adulthood and are able to nest. So when you see an adult sea turtle, it's pretty incredible what that turtle has gone through. And the numbers I just gave you all actually don't even account for human influences or human activities that can threaten sea turtles, like beach development or fishing practices and pollution. When you account for human influence, it's actually only about 1 in 1,000 sea turtle eggs that are going to make it to adulthood and to breeding age. So just kind of take that in. It's clear because of all the odds sea turtles overcome that they really do need our help, and we can do that through research, right? Which is what we do here at Ocean First Institute. Through research and education, we can help understand the sea turtles, track their migratory patterns, see what they eat, see what they're up against, so we can help them. So one way that we'll research sea turtles is by attaching actually a little satellite tag to their shell and then tracking their migratory patterns. Scientists do this with actually a glue that grows with the shell. It's kind of like what you might use as nail glue. So it doesn't hurt them, it grows with them, and it'll eventually just kind of fall off. But this allows it so that when the sea turtle takes off on its thousands of miles of journeys, we're able to see where it goes. This also makes sure that we can help rehabilitate sea turtles that might have been struck by a boat or injured in some way, and make it so that we can release them back into the wild. So this is a satellite tracking of a sea turtle named Anna. She was a loggerhead sea turtle that was released with a satellite transmitter in the Florida Keys in 2014. She had been hit by a boat at some point, but healed and rehabilitated and went back out into the wild. So Anna, as we can see, spent a lot of time around the Florida Keys, but she didn't stay there. She actually ended up traveling up the coast of Florida. And you can see what a journey she took. By tracking Anna, the scientists were able to see that she actually journeyed about 1,000 miles in the 2 years that they were able to track her from 2014 to 2016. So these turtles embark on incredible journeys, and it's really helpful to scientists, and we can see that so that we can help counteract certain threats that turtles face. Things like beach development can really inhibit nesting practices of sea turtles and can interfere with where they're going to have been. For example, little hatchlings actually use light to be able to navigate to the ocean when they hatch, and so things like city lights can confuse them a little bit. We also have things like plastic bags. Can you think of what these plastic bags might look like in the water? One of our favorite snacks from the leatherback sea turtle. They can kind of look like jellyfish. Yeah, exactly. And so a loggerhead might mistake plastic pollution for some, or I'm sorry, a leatherback might mistake plastic pollution for something that it can eat. And likewise, even certain types of fishing practices can be harmful to sea turtles. But I think the really good news is that scientists and educators and fishermen and governments are really working hard to make sure that the turtles out there are protected. And so this is a wonderful example of a joint effort between all those different groups to ensure that sea turtles are being protected. This is called a turtle excluder device. And you can basically think of this as like a trap door that fishermen and scientists have actually put in nets that will allow sea turtles, if they're caught in a net, to escape. And you can see it happening in the video right here. So that sea turtle is coming out of that trap door if it had gotten caught in the net and heading back out to the ocean. So this has been really helpful to fishermen, and it's obviously been incredibly helpful to the turtles, which we're now able to protect as a result of these turtle excluder devices, or TEDs. So that's just one of many ways that people are working hard together to protect turtles. And even more good news is you can help too. There are lots of ways that whether you're in Florida or here in Colorado, you can help make a difference in protecting our turtles. So for example, one thing that you can do even just from your home is saying no to plastic straws. Americans use about 500 million plastic straws in the United States every day. That's crazy. And so even if you as an individual say no to plastic straws or get one of those reusable metal straws and use that even for a little while, it can make a huge difference. I will say actually that a lot of the things that we normally talk about as being really important to help the ocean and to help the creatures within it, things like reducing single-use plastic, picking up trash where you see it, those can be a little more difficult in challenging times like we're facing, where we're trying to keep the health of our community at the forefront and make sure that we're protecting the vulnerable and staying healthy. And so the one thing that I would say that everyone can do while we're kind of maybe socially distancing is education and being educated. So maybe you're going to have a Zoom meeting with your friends later where you can share some of the facts about sea turtles that you learned here today. Maybe there's questions that me and Lauren might not be able to answer for you that you can go off and research on your own. This is an amazing time to get educated, to help educate others, to share what we can do to protect the ocean. And so I really encourage everyone to dive into these sea turtles a little bit. And we can start the next phase of that now by taking and answering questions. So thank you all for being so engaged in the text chat during this, for answering my questions. And I'm